All right, episode 2 of the Prop Masters, and this is a true story. I said to Aaron Korolnek, if we don't call our review segment Necks and Checks in honor of Will Ferrell in Step Brothers, snapping necks and cashing checks, I was going to cry and we wouldn't be doing this. Aaron, is that true?
That is absolutely true, DT. I wouldn't have it any other way, my friend.
I love it. Necks and Checks is where we review what we told you in our past show, and we did okay. Both games we took on the point spread. I don't think there was a real surprise in there. Maybe that Tampa winning that game by 10 was. Yep. Were you surprised by either result there?
I was surprised at Tampa, and as we'll detail throughout our little program here, I wish we knew some of the injury details with some of the New Orleans Saints key offensive players. Not so forthcoming was New Orleans with what was really going on, so that would have been helpful.
Yeah, that would have been good. I had Brady over 2.5 touchdown passes. He had his second with 2:26 left in the third, never got the third. Plus 150, I'd make that wager again for sure. You nailed Baker Mayfield over 20.5 completions in the Cleveland game. That played out just the way you said it would.
It did, and it's the way that Cleveland's been operating in the second half of the season. They've been putting the ball, I should say, putting the ball in Baker Mayfield's hands a lot more in the second half, and that was really reflected in the way that he was used offensively.
Wide receivers, Austin Hooper, under 4 receptions was one we told you. 3 targets, that was an easy one. Emmanuel Sanders, that, like you said, that New Orleans game played out nothing like we kind of expected, or maybe we should have known better if we turn it back on ourselves. He went over. Alvin Kamara, under 4.5 receptions. We nailed that one. And Nick Chubb over 69.5 yards is a fascinating story that Aaron has coming up a little later on. The long shot I was rooting for, Travis Kelce, 11 or more receptions we told you to take, plus 1,200 the odds on that. 11 targets and 8 receptions. They were pushing it. They were going for that. And I would back that wager again for sure.
It was almost as if Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy and Patrick Mahomes were watching our segment, DT, because early on, Kelce was getting pounded with targets, racking up the catches, and I was starting to sweat. I'm like, oh, my God, what, plus 1,200? Are we going to hit this monster? Unfortunately, things got derailed a little bit towards the end, but it was still a quality prop, one I would go with once again.
Yeah, just saying, if Mahomes stays in that game, if Cleveland gets that touchdown, they fumble away, and it's super close down the stretch, it would have been all Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, and we could have scored on that one. Overall for the week, I was up 6.5 units. God bless Mark Andrews and Aaron Rodgers, the big ones for me. That was love both those guys. But Baltimore not throwing the ball to Mark Andrews. I enjoy that, hammering the unders.
I mean, all year long, it seemed to be a pervasive story with the Baltimore Ravens. So no surprise it carried over to the divisional round of the playoffs.
All right, in tough luck, let's review some of the ones that went against us, because these are always the fun ones. You had told us you were on Nick Chubb at 69.5 yards. Please detail your wager on Nick Chubb at 69.5 yards, and then the full truth behind it, because this story is great.
Well, DT, the reality is I have not slept in many days because I've been troubled by what happened with Nick Chubb on Saturday. And the total that I told our audience to bet the over on was 69.5 rushing yards. And Nick Chubb got to 70 rushing yards early in the fourth quarter. I'm feeling great. I'm like, all right, I did our audience a service and I gave them a winner. And then late in the fourth quarter, with about 5 minutes left, Chubb rushes for no gain. Later in the drive, Chubb rushes for -1 yard, putting him at 69 yards and putting him under the total. Little did I know when I looked at my wagers later on, I actually bet the over of 68.5 yards. So I deceived our audience, DT, but fortunately for me personally, still came out on top.
So you sent the good people to a loser, but had a winner of your own, and it was by a damn half a yard.
Yes, I'll be a little bit more cognizant of that going forward, that's for sure.
Oh, I love that story so much. My tough luck was Michael Thomas, over under 6.5 receptions. I felt confident based on, what he did the previous week. He was back from injury. It's the playoffs, blah, blah, blah. He had no catches on 4 targets for that one. And I think you rightly point out that maybe not all the blame can I foist on Michael Thomas for that one. I'm going to take a little bit of that on myself.
I don't think you should face any blame at all, DT. Michael Thomas, 150 catches last year. This year, he was clearly beat up, and to the point where we heard Sean Payton, the coach of the New Orleans Saints, reveal that his high ankle sprain was far more serious than we thought. He has torn ligaments that we cannot comprehend. He was not himself, and that was not part of the injury report provided by the New Orleans Saints, not to mention his quarterback, Drew Brees, a litany of injuries he was dealing with as well, including a torn rotator cuff, which would explain his Peyton Manning Denver Broncos-esque passing performance.
It was three interceptions. It was just bad for Brees. But you and I, in our prop betting, we're not against getting just absolutely hosed by depth charts, John White of the BC Lions, or any number of CFL ones that have killed us in the last few years.
And the CFL is notorious for being a little inaccurate with the injury reports, just who's going to start, how much they're going to play. So perhaps we should have been a little bit more aware of the possibility with the Saints.
John White over and Brandon Rutley starts. What are you doing to us? Come on. Awful. Awful. There are players for whom we are hashtag blessed. For me, it is Lamar Jackson. And prop betting gets you into things where you're like, oh, you know what? I don't mind if a guy goes out injured, even though as a person, you know that's wrong. Right? Lamar Jackson, I was on him under 17.5 completions. He was absolutely going to go over early in the fourth quarter, it looked like. But then he throws that interception late in the third quarter, goes back for the touchdown, and then he gets knocked out of the game. He finishes with 14. I was hashtag blessed that Lamar Jackson got injured on this one. Who are you blessed by?
I was hashtag blessed by the Buffalo Bills, a team that has been blessing gamblers for months now. They have been the best team against the spread in the NFL over the last 11 weeks. And no surprise, they won and they covered outright against the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson. Probably very fortunate for the Bills that Lamar threw that pick in the red zone and ultimately left the game, because otherwise the cover may not have been so easy to come by, and we might not see the Bills in the AFC Championship game in this weekend.
Yeah, the Buffalo Bills have been good. They're going to cause us some problems as we go along in today's show. We need to pick the real MVP, for whom we are very happy that they were available and that the prop line setters got them wrong. Do you have a real MVP from this past week?
I do, DT, and my real MVP was Mike Evans, who was matched up against Marshawn Lattimore, a guy who has dominated Evans throughout their respective NFL careers, and this past weekend was no exception. Just one catch for Evans. It did go for a touchdown, but his totals, 4.5 catches, 57.5 receiving yards, nowhere close to those totals. And I think when we're looking ahead to the game against the Green Bay Packers this weekend, there could be similar trends to follow with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and their receiver group. How about you, DT?
My real MVP is Alvin Kamara. I've just made a bunch of money off Alvin Kamara the last few weeks. As we told you, it was plus 135 to go under 4.5 receptions. I went back and checked my records. I've hit him on that exact prop 3 straight weeks. It's actually come down from 5.5 to 4.5. I've hit him on him 3 straight weeks. And also one of those weeks I hit on him under in the yardage, because I think we're stuck thinking of the Alvin Kamara at the beginning of the season, right? When he was on pace for 1 million catches. That is absolutely not who he was toward the end of the season. And Alvin Kamara, the real MVP for me. And maybe a little hat tip to Drew Brees for not throwing Kamara the ball. That's been working great for my bankroll. It's great.
I think what you said is exactly spot on. Oftentimes the odds makers are looking at things that transpired far earlier in the season and are no longer reflective of what's truly transpiring today. And I think that's something that's going to come up a lot throughout discussions about prop masters heading into Sunday.
And it's interesting, right? There's a math thing that I think I spotted in the CFL. When they come back, we'll confirm, but they seem to set lines based on averages, right? And what they may not consider is that if a guy has 11 catches one week, that can dramatically skew his average, right? He has 11, 2 and 2. Well, he's averaging 5 a week. Well, if that's the case, I'm probably taking him under to catch 5, because 2 of those weeks he was actually under 5, even though that is his average. So I feel like that's what befell him with Kamara, and that's something that I'm keeping an eye on as we go forward, because the average number of catches can get dramatically skewed if one game is just a complete outlier. That's something to take under advisement as we go. Let's look.
It is DT. And just one more thing. When you talk about matchups in the playoffs, there are lockdown corners that are going to be focused on guys exclusively. That seems to be far more pervasive when playoff time rolls around. And those are things you really need to think about and try to exploit when you're handicapping the props. And that's exactly what we're here to provide for you today.
Yeah, and that does lead us beautifully into our early outs for the coming weekend, the championship round. We look ahead to what we're thinking the props will be and the props that we will be looking for. First up, you mentioned Mike Evans. You have your eye on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers receivers.
I do. And you look back to week 6 with Mike Evans. He was shadowed exclusively by Jair Alexander, one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL of the Green Bay Packers. But if you look at the recent usage for Alexander, he has been focused on a different part of the field. And they've been playing him at left corner, which means that his responsibility will be Antonio Brown this week, meaning that Evans will match up against Kevin King, who has been torched by recent wide receivers in the last couple of weeks. So that poses very well for Mike Evans overs and certainly poses very well for Antonio Brown unders. Not to mention Antonio Brown missed practice on Wednesday with a knee injury. So not only is he going to be shadowed by Alexander, he's also a little bit banged up. So that's something to look for heading into Sunday, DT.
Confirmed a knee injury and confirmed not the Antonio Brown stuff that has littered his career. Confirmed?
Yeah. Confirmed.
Okay, good. Because I was waiting for that to implode. Props to him. It has not imploded at all. I'm in that same game. I'm watching for Davante Adams. And you talked about the matchups. Jalen Ramsey, every time Davante lined up on the left side, there was Ramsey. And it really pushed down his yardage total, though he was able to get some receptions. I am really looking forward to taking the overs on Davante Adams. If it comes in about 85 yards and if it's 6.5 receptions, hard on the overs because Tampa Bay looked terrible in that game against New Orleans to me. They win it because of those interceptions set up them in great field position. He had 10 targets, 6 catches, 61 receptions. In the first meeting, did Davante Adams. This is the playoffs, and for reasons that we'll talk about in a second, I think Davante gets even more this time. So I am really curious what the Davante Adams lines come out as.
And sticking with the Packers skill position players, Aaron Jones, traditionally thought of as the bell cow for the Green Bay Packers, has been anything but in recent weeks. And there was thought that Aaron Jones was being saved for the postseason. But if you look at his usage last week, where he was on the field for only 62% of the snaps and only received 43% of the running back carries, ceding time to Jamal Williams and to A.J. Dillon. So if you believe that Aaron Jones is a lock for 15-plus carries and 80-plus yards, you are sorely mistaken. I'd be eyeing the unders against an improved Tampa Bay Buccaneers run defense as well.
Yeah, and then along the lines of that, I'm looking at Aaron Rodgers over on completions. In the first game was fascinating between these two. Green Bay just marches down the field for 10 points, 10-0, and then it was over for their offense. They lose it 38-10. Tampa really just brought the blitz and absolutely bamboozled Green Bay. Rodgers looked like he'd stolen his teddy bear and kicked him in the ribs and left him on the curb on the way out. It was just awful. Green Bay, to me, is absolutely going to be prepared for that this time. You want to blitz? Okay, now it's quick game, and that will be in our playbooks. I'm curious to see what the number for completions for Rodgers is. If there's an attempts number, I'll look at that one as well. Melds in with what you say. But Green Bay is going to be ready for Tampa Bay this time, and overs are what I'm eyeing. Won't commit to anything right now, but overs are on there. We are both eyeballing the Buffalo Bills running game through their running backs, but I think this is one, Aaron, we might end up on different sides of. Tell me what you're looking for with guys like Devin Singletary.
So my theory with the Buffalo Bills, and we know how well they throw the ball, Josh Allen and that offense with Diggs and Beasley and Brown and Gabriel Davis, they've been exceptional all year, but the run game has been an afterthought. But when you look at the matchup against the Kansas City Chiefs, DT, Kansas City faced the easiest run schedule in the NFL this year, but were ranked 29th against the run. That is their clear deficiency as a defense. I believe Brian Daboll will scheme some more plays for Devin Singletary, and I'm not saying he's going to be used like Adrian Peterson with the Vikings. He's not going to get 25 carries. I could see Devin Singletary carrying the ball 10 to 12 times, and that should be enough against a porous KC Chiefs defense to rack up 55 to 65 rushing yards which should blow over a total. I'm expecting to be listed around 38 to 42 yards.
Yeah, it is going to be a low total. I'm with you on that 100%. Last week, between him and TJ Yeldon, 9 running back carries in a game that they led by 14 points for the entire fourth quarter. It doesn't make sense with conventional football talk of establish the run, right? What Daboll's doing is incredible. It makes perfect sense with the current trend of football of you throw to win the game. And Daboll is great for doing that, right? He's great for taking advantage of things like motion, taking advantage of things like play action. Hey, let's let Josh Allen run some quarterback scrambles if we get in there. See, I lean to the unders on that, but I don't know, to me, if I'm getting suckered in by paying too much attention to what happened last week. That's one I really want to dive into. No Zach Moss, you think Singletary's action would go up, but it didn't in a game where it should have, right? Winning by 14, run the clock, run the ball, run the clock. So they are a real puzzler to me. I would have leaned to the unders, but now I'm going to take a deeper look knowing that you are leaning to what are going to be low overs.
Yeah, that is my thought on how the odds makers will set up this player prop for Singletary. And I think another way you could play it is look on the over for the receiving yards for Singletary as well. He had 3 targets, and he caught all 3 of them. And he ran 33 routes on Josh Allen's 40 dropbacks. So he was out there for Josh Allen as an outlet. He didn't hit him as many times as you might think, considering the number of routes he might have run. But if you're seeing the Singletary receiving prop under 25 or so, I think that's a number you could easily hit, and it could go over by quite a bit.
You know I love low receiving yards totals. Single-digit receiving yards totals, I love those. Those are amazing.
Those are the best. All you need is one catch and a missed tackle, and you are hitting the over, and you are hitting the bank.
Yes. So those are the props we have our early eyes on, our early outs, if you will. We will have our full list, our full quarterback, receivers, running backs. We'll have a long shot for you on Saturday when we join you again to talk about the conference championships. Only 3 NFL games left for us, Aaron. It's been so much fun.
Don't make me emotional.
It's been really quite profitable and fun so far. Props have been very good to us. We'll hope to help make them very good to you. Follow us on Twitter at Aaron_Korolnek. On Instagram is Korolnek47. Is that right?
That's right.
DT on SC on both. Subscribe. Throw us a rating and a review. We love having you with us. Thanks for being with us. We love our prop bets. And we hope you will love making money with our prop bets, because the best way to, making money is really great, but making money with friends, even better.
Amen, brother. Props.